Maybe no one else has told you this, but I will. You're more loyal to the potential than the reality. If you're being used but not developed, it's time to go. You don't have to keep proving. You don't have to keep explaining. You don't have to keep settling. If a workplace cannot see your potential, your leadership, or your evolution, it does not deserve your future. You don't have to prove your worth by staying where you're underutilized. When they love what you do but don't invest in who you're becoming, it's time to go. If I don't advocate for my growth, no one will. You are allowed to say thank you and goodbye. I used to say I'm grateful when I should have said I'm good. I convinced myself to stay in roles, on teams, in meetings, in environments where I wasn't fully seen. I wasn't valued at a point. I wasn't challenged anymore. But I was told I should be grateful. I should be grateful to be there for the opportunity, for the exposure, for the moment. And I was for a long time until I realized what I was calling gratitude was actually fear. What I was calling loyalty was actually self-abandonment. What I was calling humility, that was just me being quiet so I didn't disrupt the space that was never really built for me to begin with. Welcome to the Upgrade with Elle. Okay, so today we are talking about the workplace, not just the toxic work environment that we all know all too well, right? Because that's just too easy. We're talking about the nuanced, polite, well-branded, high-performing environments that still no longer align with who you're becoming. It's a tough one, right? Because you'd think that those environments would absolutely align with who you're becoming. It sounds positive. It's glittery and gold on the outside. This is about knowing when your role no longer suits your calling, knowing when your skill set is being used, but your vision is being ignored. Knowing when you've outgrown the space that you're in, even if you still feel somewhat indebted to it. Because let's talk about the difference between contribution and containment. Let's talk about how you can outgrow roles without feeling guilt. Let's talk about how when your assignment is up, that's just what it is. Time's up. It's over. And that's okay. But because we've attached our identity to these environments, it becomes very challenging to admit when your time in a role, at a place, in an environment no longer suits you. So many of us, especially Black women, were raised to believe that stability equated to success. And when you get a job, a good job, you've got to keep that job because it has a decent title and a predictable salary and it has great benefits and it has stock options. You might even have a large team. So when it starts to feel heavy or unfulfilling or misaligned, what do we tell ourselves? Here's what we say. It's a blessing. Don't mess this up. Be grateful. People would kill to have this opportunity. You're so lucky to even be here. And maybe we are grateful, but we can also feel those other things too. We can also feel exhausted. We can also be underpaid. We can also be under-challenged, overstretched, low-key feeling resentment all the time. Those are all things that can coexist. But instead of naming it, we perform appreciation. We stay late. We stay quiet. We keep proving. Because we've been taught to believe that discomfort is the cost of success. And it's simply not true. Yes, there are moments where success is going to require you to step outside of your comfort zone, but that's not the kind of discomfort I'm talking about. Let me take you back to a role where I stayed too long. And I started to see it unravel at a point because I had said yes for multiple years. Yes to opportunities, yes to relocating, yes to any project, any metric, anything they wanted me to go after. It was yes, 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 all the things. That became my brand. I became so used to not even checking in with myself that I would just perform out of appreciation for just being given the opportunity. And in that season, over time, I started shrinking, not because I didn't have ideas and good ideas, not because I didn't care anymore, but because I could just feel that my value wasn't being cultivated. It was being contained. I noticed that I started to speak up less in meetings, which was outside of my typical behavior pattern. I would edit so much before submitting any idea or coming up with something that I wanted to bring to the table to present. And even when I was crushing it in certain areas, I didn't even feel seen anymore. But I stayed. Why? Because I was grateful. Because of how much the company had done for me, because I thought I owed them my silence, because I thought staying was safer than starting over. And the hardest part wasn't deciding when to leave. It was me convincing myself that I was allowed to. I kept asking, what if I don't find something better? What if I keep thinking about the team, the workload, the loyalty? But the truth was, they had already adjusted to me shrinking. They had already become used to this new version of me. The only person that hadn't adjusted was me. And then I realized if I don't advocate for my growth, no one will. And if my growth needed to happen outside of that environment, I had to become honest with myself about that. So how do you really know it's time to move on from a workplace? I'm going to share with you a couple of things that I learned. If you're being used but not developed, it's time to go. When they love what you do but don't invest in who you're becoming, it's time to go. When you're operating in survival mode and Sunday night it feels dreadful, you have no creative spark left, and you're counting down the days until you can take PTO, it's time to go. You've stopped asking what's next, what's on the horizon, and you've just accepted that growth isn't coming for you. You're just riding it out. You feel invisible or underestimated. You're not praised, or maybe you are praised, but you're not promoted. Maybe you're being valued, but you're not elevated. You're more loyal to the potential than the reality. And you keep hoping that they'll see it in you. Maybe it'll be next quarter, maybe during the next performance cycle. But the truth is, they already see who they want to see. And that's not changing. If any of what I just mentioned is happening in your environment, you have to ask yourself, is it time to go? And let's be clear. You could be grateful for a job and an opportunity and still know it's not your long-term assignment. You can be appreciative of what it taught you and still choose to leave it behind. You can be loyal to your growth, not just the company's, and know when it's time to be honest with yourself. Gratitude doesn't mean guilt, and leaving does not mean you're ungrateful. It just means you're aware. You're allowed to outgrow the room. You are allowed to say thank you and goodbye. You're not betraying anything by choosing alignment. You're not selfish for choosing your next chapter, okay? You're not reckless for walking towards a new opportunity or a new leap of faith that is going to help you grow. And let me be clear about what gratitude is not. Okay? It's not staying in toxic team dynamics to keep the peace. It's not taking on extra roles because you're just good at it and you want to keep proving yourself over and over. It's not feeling guilty for wanting change. None of these things are gratitude. And if you're the only one adjusting, that's not gratitude. That's sacrifice. You can want more and still honor something that was given to you. You can be thankful for the opportunity and still realize that you've outgrown it. It's time to move forward. Here's what I want you to walk away with. You don't have to prove your worth by staying where you're underutilized. You don't have to shrink to keep the peace in an environment or to wear it as a mask of gratitude. You don't have to call stagnation a blessing just to avoid discomfort. You can say, I'm grateful for what this taught me. I'm grateful for how I've grown, I've learned, I've changed, I've expanded, but I'm no longer learning here. Or I appreciate this opportunity, but my purpose needs a new environment. Sometimes the upgrade is internal, but sometimes it's logistical. Sometimes it's a resignation letter. Sometimes it's accepting a new calendar invite. Sometimes it's a quiet decision that says, I'm good and I'm ready. Maybe no one else has told you this, but I will. You don't have to keep proving. You don't have to keep explaining. You don't have to keep settling. If a workplace cannot see your potential, your leadership, or your evolution, it does not deserve your future. Appreciate it for the season it was meant to exist. And just because you're capable of holding on to it doesn't mean you're called to it anymore. I want to ask you a few questions. Where in your professional life are you shrinking to keep a seat? Where are you convincing yourself that you should stay when your future is asking you to move? What would it look like to walk away, not in anger, not in resentment, but in alignment? If anything, let this episode be your permission slip to reevaluate, not from fear, but from a place of power. I want to remind you of something. You don't have to stay small to prove that you're strong. You don't need to say yes just because they gave you a chair. You don't need to perform appreciation anymore to be worthy of elevation. You're allowed to walk. You're allowed to rise. You're allowed to upgrade. And as always, the biggest risk is not failing. It's staying the same. And you cannot change the past, but you can absolutely decide on your future. So upgrade accordingly. If something in today's message stirred something in you, don't ignore that. I created my one-on-one coaching for moments like this when you know it's time to shift, but you just don't know where to start. This work is about clarity, courage, and finally choosing you. And the truth is, you don't have to do it alone. You can apply now at the link in the description or visit theupgradewithL.com/coaching. I'd be honored to walk with you in this season.